In the heart of the kingdom of Ifeji, nestled between a serpentine river and a dense forest older than time, there lived a boy named Lami. His village, Airy Oak, was small and often overlooked, but its people were known for their songs, melodies that echoed through the trees like the voices of ancestors. Lami, however, had no song. His mother often said he was born in silence, under a moon that refused to shine. He was different from other children. While they sang and played the talking drum, Lami would sit quietly, staring into the distance as if listening for something only he could hear. The village elders sometimes shook their heads and muttered, "That boy walks with shadows." But his mother, Aya Lami, loved him fiercely. "He carries a silence that speaks louder than words," she would say. One hot afternoon, while Lami was fetching water from the stream, a mischievous parrot swooped down and stole the yam cake from his calabash. Laughing with surprise, he chased the bird deep into the forest, far beyond where the children were allowed to go. The sun was dipping low, casting long fingers of shadow between the trees. The parrot led him to a part of the forest he had never seen before. Vines hung like curtains, and the air was thick with the scent of old wood and forgotten prayers. He stumbled into a clearing where the wind did not blow and the trees seemed to lean inward, listening. At the center stood a colossal baobab tree with roots that twisted above ground like the limbs of ancient giants. As he approached, the ground beneath his feet softened. He tripped and fell hard. His hands scraped against something solid beneath the dirt. Curious, he brushed away the leaves and soil. There, half buried among the roots, was a drum. It was unlike any drum he had ever seen. Carved from sacred Iroko wood, its surface was inlaid with symbols of power, snakes eating their tails, suns with eyes, birds with human faces. Its hide was dark and smooth, as though it had been tanned from shadows. The moment his fingers touched it, a chill ran up his spine. Then he heard it. Not a voice from the air, but from inside his head. "I am the voice of Oba. Play me, and the world will remember." Lami jerked his hand away and scrambled back. The trees creaked, though there was no wind. The parrot, now silent, fluttered to a branch above and tilted its head at him. The drum pulsed faintly, like a sleeping heart. He should have run. But something in the drum called to him. Something old. Something buried. He lifted it. It was warm. And the moment he cradled it in his arms, the forest exhaled. He did not know it then, but Airy Oak and perhaps all of Ifeji would never be the same. Lami returned to the village just as the last light of day dipped below the horizon. He clutched the drum tightly, heart pounding with a mix of fear and awe. No one noticed him slip quietly into his mother's hut. Aya Lami was kneeling by the fire, stirring a pot of agusi soup. She looked up and frowned. "Where have you been, Lami? Night is falling." "I got lost," he said quietly, hiding the drum behind him. That night, after supper, Lami sat by the doorway, staring at the stars. The drum seemed to hum in his lap, its warmth seeping into his skin. Something in him urged him to play. Just one beat. Just one rhythm. He lifted the drum and struck it gently. The sound that came out was not like any drum he had heard. It was deep and resonant, like thunder echoing in a cavern. It wrapped around the village like smoke, twisting through the huts and under doorways. People stirred in their sleep. He played again. The rhythm this time was different. It flowed from his fingers as though he had known it all his life, as if the drum was guiding him. He played until the stars disappeared behind a veil of cloud. Then silence fell. The next morning, the village woke to a world changed. No babies cried. No birds sang. The goats refused to bleat. Even the river that ran beside Airy Oak had stopped flowing. It was as if the world had paused, holding its breath. "Something is wrong," muttered the old basket weaver. "The spirits have turned their backs," said the priest of Augun. The village elders gathered beneath the sacred Iroko tree. Cowries were cast. Palm oil spilled. The oracle was summoned. She arrived that evening, a blind woman named Agbonma, with white chalk on her face and a snake coiled around her wrist. She sniffed the air, her nostrils flaring. "A tyrant's voice has returned," she said. "The one who ruled with iron and fear. His voice was sealed in a drum by the one he wronged, the one who sang truth. Now the drum has been awakened. The gods will not speak again until it is silenced. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The villagers looked at one another in terror. Where is the boy? Agbonma asked. Lami stepped forward, holding the drum. I didn't mean to. It called to me. The priest tried to destroy it. He struck it with a machete, but the blade turned to dust. Others tried to burn it. The flames hissed and died. The oracle turned to Lami. You are bound to it now. Only you can undo what has been done. The curse cannot be broken by force. Only by truth. You must find the source of the drum's sorrow. But how? Lami whispered. Agbonma placed a hand on his head. You must go to the oracle of 7 tongues. Beyond the hills. Beyond the rivers. She holds the tale of the one who sang the truth. His mother wept. He is only a boy. He is the one chosen, Agbonma said. That night, the villagers gave him dried fish, a goatskin flask of palm wine, and a small charm carved from ebony. And at dawn, under a sky as silent as stone, Lami began his journey. Lami stepped into the unknown with the cursed drum strapped to his back, the ebony charm tied around his wrist, and his mother's prayers clinging to his ears. The villagers watched him disappear beyond the last palm tree of airy oak. Their eyes heavy with fear and hope. The path ahead was not marked. He moved through thickets, crossed creeks, and slept under the gaze of silent stars. At times, the drum would hum faintly, pulsing with warmth as if encouraging him onward. At night, he dreamed of a woman cloaked in flame, her mouth sewn shut with threads of gold. On the 4th day, Lami reached a vast plain covered in whispering grass. There, he met a hunter named Ekin. The man was tall, with ash-colored eyes and a leopard's tooth hanging from his neck. But Ekin had no name for himself. I lost it, he said, when I drank from the river of forgetting. I've been searching for it ever since. They traveled together for a while. Ekin taught Lami how to listen to the wind, how to sleep with one eye open, and how to scare away the shadow spirits with fire. One night, while camping near the edge of a blackened forest, they were approached by a woman with silver skin and a crown of thorns. She introduced herself as Nwaniocha, the woman of snakes. Her tears, she claimed, could turn to vipers. Why do you cry snakes? Lami asked. Because I once loved a man who silenced my story, she replied, her eyes never meeting his. She touched the drum and recoiled. That voice still lives in there. The tyrant. The fire, but also the one he wronged. The woman who sang of his wickedness. Find her story, and the curse may break. With her cryptic blessing, they left the forest and climbed the hills of Echo, a place where voices from the past were said to linger in the wind. There, Ekin found his name. As they crossed a bridge of woven roots, he paused. My name is Ekin, son of Akperu. That's who I was. That's who I am, he said, his voice trembling. With a nod, he turned back. This is your path now, Lami. May your silence teach the world to listen. Lami pressed on alone. He crossed rivers that flowed backward, bargained with market spirits who sold memories, and slept under trees that wept ash instead of leaves. The journey aged him. He grew leaner, stronger. The drum became heavier, as though the sorrow inside it deepened with each passing day. Finally, after 7 moons, he reached the mouth of a cave carved into a mountain shaped like a crouching lion. Flames licked the air around it, and a voice called out. Who dares disturb the oracle of 7 tongues? Lami stepped forward. I am Lami of Arioch. I seek the truth bound in this drum. A figure emerged, an old woman with 7 serpents around her neck. Each snake spoke a different language: wind, stone, rain, fire, bone, leaf, and silence. To find the truth, the oracle said, you must journey to the kingdom beneath the Baobab. There lies the Griot who silenced the tyrant with her song. Her tale was buried, but she waits. Her memory is the key. The oracle placed her palm on the drum. It sizzled with light. Go now, before the drum consumes you. The Baobab awaits. And so, with new purpose burning in his chest, Lami turned south toward the oldest tree in the world. The land changed as Lami approached the south. The air grew heavier, and the soil turned red as blood. Trees lined the horizon like ancient sentinels, and in the distance stood the legendary Baobab, its trunk as wide as a house, its branches spreading like a spider's web across the sky. The kingdom beneath the Baobab was not a city in the usual sense. It was a realm of spirits, memories, and echoes, where stories lived as beings and songs breathed. Lami stepped into the shadow of the great tree, and the world shifted. The sky rippled like water, and voices surrounded him, some weeping, some singing, others whispering truths never spoken aloud. He comes bearing the voice of Oba. He carries sorrow wrapped in wood. He seeks the one who sang truth to power. Lami walked toward the base of the tree, where a circular stone altar pulsed with light. Seated upon it was a woman with hair like river mist and eyes like cracked glass. Her skin shimmered with stories, tiny scenes played across her arms like moving tattoos. She looked up and smiled. "You found me, child. Are you the griot who silenced Oba?" he asked. She nodded. "I am Esh. My voice was my sword. I sang of his cruelty, his greed, his murder of the innocent. So he cursed me. He tore my name from history and locked my truth inside that drum." Lami lowered the drum. "It called to me. I didn't know. I only wanted to understand." Esh stood and touched the drum. It moaned under her fingers. "It is heavy with lies and twisted memory. But inside, my song still lives. You must release it." "How?" "You must play the drum not with your hands, but with your truth. You must tell my story not just as words, but as feeling. As fire." Esh stepped back. The roots of the Baobab parted, revealing a glowing pool. "Drink. See what I saw. Live what I lived." Lami knelt and drank. The world shattered. He was no longer himself. He was Esh, walking through the halls of Oba's palace. He felt the weight of her truth, the fire of her defiance. He saw Oba's cruelty, villages burned for tribute, elders silenced, children taken. He remembered standing before the people, singing of justice, even as soldiers dragged her away. He felt the pain of her voice being stripped from her throat, of her memory being sealed in the drum. When Lami awoke, tears streaked his face. "Now you know," Esh said softly. "Now you can play." Lami lifted the drum. And this time, he didn't strike it in rhythm. He spoke through it. He told Esh's story not in words, but in feeling. In sorrow and rage. In hope and flame. The drum wept sound. The Baobab shook. The very ground trembled with the power of truth. And then, a crack. The drum split. Light poured from within. The silence that had gripped the world shattered like glass. Birds sang. Rivers rushed. Voices returned. Esh smiled as her form began to fade. "Thank you, child. My name lives again." Lami stood in the sunlight beneath the Baobab, the broken drum at his feet, the curse lifted. The journey home was not the same path Lami had taken. Now, the world greeted him with voices restored. The birds chirped in layered harmonies. The rivers whispered ancient riddles. Even the wind carried the laughter of unseen ancestors. But Lami was quiet. The drum was broken, its magic released, and the weight he had carried so long was gone. And in that silence, he now understood the value of sound. When he stepped through the gates of Airy Oak, the villagers gasped. Children clung to their mothers. The elders looked on, speechless. Aya Lami rushed forward, her hands trembling. "My son, is it over?" He nodded, eyes filled with the memory of Esh. "The silence has been broken. The truth has been sung." That night, a great fire was lit in the center of the village. For the first time in moons, the talking drums spoke. Songs rose into the sky. Food was shared. Stories flowed like palm wine. Lami sat by the fire, watching the people dance. The oracle Agbonma approached him, her 7 beaded necklaces glinting in the firelight. "The curse is broken," she said. "But what of you, child? What remains in you now that the drum is gone?" Lami looked into the flames. "A story. One that needs to be told. Over and over again." She smiled. "Then tell it. Become the new griot. Let the world hear what silence once buried." From that day on, Lami was no longer the boy born in silence. He was Lami the truth singer, bearer of forgotten voices, teller of untold tales. He carried no drum now, but every village he visited remembered the sound of truth that had once split the skies. And in the kingdom of Ifeji, beneath the shade of the great Baobab, the name of Esh was carved in stone and sung in schools, shrines, and marketplaces. The voice that once shook a kingdom had returned. And through Lami, it would never fade again. Lami looked into the flames. A story. One that needs to be told. Over and over again. She smiled. Then tell it. Become the new griot. Let the world hear what silence once buried. From that day on, Lami was no longer the boy born in silence. He was Lami the truth singer, bearer of forgotten voices, teller of untold tales. He carried no drum now, but every village he visited remembered the sound of truth that had once split the skies. And in the kingdom of Ifeji, beneath the shade of the great Baobab, the name of Esh was carved in stone and sung in schools, shrines, and marketplaces. The voice that once shook a kingdom had returned. And through Lami, it would never fade again.